Hey guys, welcome to Wargame Chat. I'm Dave.
And I'm Len.
And today ChatGPT gave us another suggestion for a video. This one is on famous battles that have been covered by Wargames, and also we're going to talk about the balance of playability and historical accuracy, because you can't have 100%. If you have 100%, as close to 100% historically accurate game as you can, the game's going to suck and be completely unplayable and not fun. So the designer always has to achieve a balance between those two if it's going to turn out to be a fun game that's relatively historically accurate. But what's your first battle?
Well, I'd say Waterloo.
Yeah.
Well,
it's the most famous battle of the Napoleonic War, so...
Yeah. It's the one, I think either Waterloo or Gettysburg, because these are the ones that everybody knows, at least knows the name. And I'm not sure how to go down this list.
Well, just do one at a time. So we're talking about Waterloo. So yeah, Waterloo, I've played Avalon Hill, Waterloo, and we've played a few others from a few other brands. I can't think of the names so far, but... yeah, I mean, I'm not a black powder person, but I mean, they're pretty reasonable. What's one of the Waterloo ones you've liked?
What's the one by Strategy and Tactics? It wasn't not the Danny Parker. It's one where they had the 4 battles of Waterloo. And one, you could play Quattro-Bras or Ligny.
Yeah, I think we played that over here, yeah.
Yeah. And... It got a lot of the feel of the battle, because a lot of times what happens is that if you know a little history of the battle, you know what's going on, and so it worked out.
You ever play a Waterloo game where there's kind of like a what if scenario? I mean, most of them just try to be historically accurate as possible. Have you ever had one where there was a what if?
Well, what it is well, there's a couple. I always thought that actually the most important event of the Waterloo campaign was on the first day, in which the First Corps was essentially wandering around. It was marching to get to Ligny to help Napoleon out. But Marshal Ney sends a messenger, says, "Turn around, go here, I need you." So Marshal Ney. So they turn around, and they're about to enter the battle where Marshal Ney is, around Quattro-Bras. They get a message from Napoleon. It's like, "I'm Napoleon. You get your ass down here." So they turn. So by the time they get to Ligny, the sun is setting. I think they, I think for the last hour they did a little shooting, but that was about it. So I've had a few where at the Battle of Quattro-Bras you roll whether or not you see the first corps shows up or not. So,
as far as what ifs, one bet I'd like to point out that no one's done a what if, not even me, in my video game is, what if in the Battle of Zama the Numidian cavalry never came back after chasing the Carthaginian cavalry off the map? I mean, they chased them for a while and came back and hit the Carthaginians in the rear, and that basically sealed Hannibal's fate. But it'd be nice to have a game where like they say on turn 3 that both the Numidian and the Hannibal's cavalry are off the map and none of them come back. That would be interesting to see how the battle turns out then, because they're not going to be most likely be able to hit Hannibal's army in the rear, and so that is a pretty good grinding match they're having before then.
Yeah, because actually there should be always rules about an optional pursuit off the map. Because I'm doing some pike and musket ones where a lot of times if you destroy an enemy, overwhelm, you roll on the pursuit table, and you end up, the cavalry runs off the map to loot the enemy camp. You don't lose any victory points because they're looting, but you also don't get them back for the rest of the game. That may be important. So
interesting. So you mentioned Gettysburg too. We've played a bunch of games on that. Actually, most of the Gettysburg games I've played are fun. Most Civil War people are fanatical about that battle.
Well, one thing, when I had the original Avalon Hill Gettysburg, I read somewhere that Jeb Stuart was wondering, well, he was following orders and capturing supplies. And what if he was there on the first day? So we tried it. Okay, jump stewards were at the opening forces and naturally would steward around. The Confederates wiped out the Union Army on the first day. So, that's a great what if. Of course, people don't appreciate that. He captured lots of supplies. And only Lee had listened to Longstreet and said, let's get out of here. But no, Lee has to attack, and, well, the rest is history.
All right, let's talk about Battle of the Bulge next, since we just played a game about the Battle of the Bulge. Some of the Battle of the Bulge games have like a fuel rule where the German tanks start running out of fuel and so on and so forth, and some really don't. So I'd like to see a what if. Well, I guess we just kind of played a what if this game here, because the Germans never run out of fuel on this. So I guess the whole scenario is really a what if scenario, since they're not running out of fuel.
They don't automatically run out.
Right. They don't automatically. Yeah, but
that's the difference. And when you're racing forward and you're going, you get your fingers crossed. Come on, give me a good die roll on the fuel table. Oh crap! No. You got nothing ahead of you, but your tanks can't move. That tends to tick you off.
All right, another thing ChatGPT said to talk about it is the educational value of some of these battles that we played. This is a little bit like the last video. So, I mean, most of these, if you've never heard of the battle and you play it, you're probably going to want to read a book about it. Like if you've never heard of Gettysburg, I don't know how you could never have heard of Gettysburg, but if you haven't and you played it and you liked it, you'll probably get a book on it and read about it.
Well, I remember one time I was doing a tour of the Battle of Bulge battlefields, and the guide was talking about how they were calling in artillery, and they were told that they didn't have enough to send them to this area. And I've seen how many times I played Battle of Bulge ones where your artillery resources, you can only hit a few places, and the rest of the units, well, you just cross your fingers and hope they get a good die roll. So you're in the commander's seat. So,
what else you got on that list?
Okay. Alternative notable examples. No. Alternative histories. Some way. The problem with alternative histories, you never know what the real parameters are. So.
Yeah, that kind of comes into the what if category. You know what I mean? The alternative history.
Yeah, because I played one that was Operation Jupiter. There was a plan, instead of going to North Africa, we'd send our troops to Norway. Now there's advantages to that. First of all, we'd shut down a lot of U-boat bases. We could build airfields closer to the heart of Germany than we could in Britain. And a few other good reasons. But on the other hand, we're landing green American troops, and we saw at Kasserine Pass how bad that could be. The German regulars were decent enough. The mountaineer troops would have been tough, and we weren't used to cold weather or mountains.
Yeah, I mean, like if there was an amphibious landing, really you'd only be able to feasibly do it in the summertime. I mean, in the wintertime, if the guys fall in the water, they're just history. So, I mean, there's just a 3-month period of the year you can do it, which gives the Germans an advantage because they know what, within 3 months of when you're going to be attacking, if you're going to.
And of course, the Tirpitz is close by, and this might be, Germans might be encouraged to sortie out with the Tirpitz, and that could they'd be willing to sacrifice it if it can sink enough ships before it goes down. So.
Right, what else you got?
Immersion and narrative. Never did understand.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Impact on pop. Actually, movies and books have an impact on pop, not games. We've already got our impression. I mean, you read the book novel Killer Angels, you want to do Gettysburg. I think we talked about educational value of games.
Yeah, we did that last episode.
Community favorites.
Well, my favorites for these major battles, for battles as far as a board game one, I really like the Decision Games folio version. That's not bad at all. And then for like battles like Agincourt, I like the GDW version, which isn't bad at all. The Avalon Hill games about the major battles I like too. What about you?
Yeah. I was about to say that it seems like community favorites. More. You're talking more about personal favorites, because
Right. But I mean, the community favorites. I mean, there's the Avalon Hill games are really popular. So
Well, I was thinking that this reminded me of the early days with miniatures. You only had a handful of rule sets, so everybody liked column, line, and square because it was there. And if somebody put out their own rule set, sometimes it didn't. You used the column, line, and square, and you didn't care for anything else. So. I say design challenges. Now that's interesting.
yeah, biggest design challenge I would say is just the balance between historical accuracy and playability and fun and all that. What about you? What do you think?
Well, I was thinking with design challenges is when you're looking on the design, what are the important factors? And you got to make sure you include them or highlight them. For instance, a lot of times in black powder games, command control is vital because there's lots of noise and smoke, and people may not get orders, or leaders may be confused. And a lot of times, like I was thinking of the gamers had both Civil War and Napoleonic games, where you didn't just send out a message. Well, yeah, if you, the commander, decide to go up to a regiment and say, "Okay, attack there," they're going to carry out your orders. Meanwhile, the rest of the army kind of stands around saying, "What do we do? What do we do?" You got to hope they have some initiative. Or else you could send it an aide to give verbal orders, or you could send a message, like a written message. That takes a little longer, but it'll probably be a lot clearer. Well, if you send the aide for a verbal message, well, a little faster, but things like that. And I remember the games were focused on that kind of system. So when it came to combat, it was like, okay, your regiment level rated an A. So you roll on the A table and things like that. And also if you get take a few hits, it might be reduced to B level or C level. So, and other games, they make a big deal about firepower in combat. So.
Well, I agree with them on that matter. I mean, firepower is important. So.
But the thing is, it's like, this was simplified. Okay, you got an A, you're within range. You might, I forget how they modified terrain, and that was it. None of this, you have modifiers for what formation are your units in, what formation is your target unit in. They just figured the commander knows what formation they should be in. That moment. So,
yeah. Anything else, or?
I was thinking also more design challenges. Why I get ticked off about people who have this roll for initiative.
Yeah, I don't like that either. Or the games where the first player changes every other turn. So it just drives me nuts because you always forget to change it, and then you just spoiled the turn. So
yeah. So.
Euros are notorious for that.
My philosophy is that you earn your initiative. A lot of times I prefer the I go, you go system. It's,
so do I.
Even if, I remember a lot of times you attacked, and then you started taking losses, so you start going into defensive positions. So you spend turns not attacking, so he starts attacking. And it has the same effect if you rolled for initiative. So, okay, design challenge. Okay.
I guess another design challenge is whether you want to have some of the boutique mechanics and stuff, like having card play and stuff in the game. Cards in war games, they do one of three things. They help the game, they ruin the game, or they have no effect on the game. So
Yeah. I remember the one you picked a card and like I remember you picked 3 of them and you can use them, and I went the entire battle. I didn't use them because it wasn't relevant to anything, you know.
Yeah.
So. Also, random events is another design challenge.
Yeah, sometimes they really help the game. Other times it's like a random event. You're winning the game and a random event occurs, and now you lose the game indirectly because of it. So.
This is another alternative. There was one S&T game about if the United States invaded Mexico after the American Civil War to drive the French out. And that had one problem I had is when you roll for random event for plague, you roll the dice and it tells you how many units to take off. And you know, even if you roll take off 6 units, that's usually a big chunk of your army. What was good about this game is the armies were small, so I made it that you roll, that's the number of steps you take off, and it still has the same effect. You don't lose your army, but it's greatly it's reduced. So, okay, historical relevance.
Relevance.
Yeah.
Well, if we're talking about important battles, they're all historically relevant, or they wouldn't be important battles. But
yeah. Well, actually, I think that's part of like why you bought the game. You want to do a Waterloo. You want to do Gettysburg. Or you want to do a battle of the Spanish Civil War because it's just so cool.
Yeah, I mean we've talked completely about historical war games here. There's also the science fiction and I guess fantasy war games too. As far as those, none of those are doing real battles. So I mean, the thing you can do with a science fiction or a fantasy battle is, let's say you want to have something like. You want to see how Julius Caesar would have performed against a successor army or something. So you could have like Romans versus Martians, and the Martians are basically equipped and act exactly like a Macedonian successor army. And so you could get away with having Julius Caesar fight an army like that then in like a fantasy or science fiction game.
Well, some fantasy sites have their own history. Starship Troopers has their own history.
There's that one game, the Blood Tree Rebellion, which I haven't tried, but it's supposed to be a decent fantasy game, and it's kind of I think it's kind of a guerrilla warfare game. Basically, what I was told is that the author wanted to make a Vietnam game, and at the time, the Wargame publisher said there wouldn't be much of an interest in that, so he took all his ideas and put it in a science fiction game because that was something that they would publish. So,
yeah. And I was thinking the Lord of the Rings has a few set-piece battles that people have played out. And I bet there's people who've done Game of Thrones battles.
Do you like the Game of Thrones, the TV show?
I only watched the first 5 seasons. I've been too lazy to
Well, yeah,
watch
I obviously liked it if you watched the first 5.
Yeah.
I watched part of the first season. I think I watched like 3 episodes or something, and after 3 episodes, I just didn't hook me into it. And then I talked to someone else about it. He's like, dude, you should have watched a few more episodes because that's when the hook occurs and you would have been addicted to it. But so maybe I should go back and watch it again or something.
Yeah, because I was thinking, to me, I talked to a friend from England. He likes it. And I told him, to me, it's always been, the creators were Americans. And to me, it's like the American version of royalty and medieval warfare. Because some characters to me are so American. I'm surprised no one's complained about that. It's, of course, I had the same problem with the Hercules Xena series. It's just so, it's like Americans in the during ancient times.
Yeah. So. Well, Hercules and Xena was just meant to be fun. It wasn't meant where you take it serious and say, oh, this is just like mythological Greece or whatever. You know, it's just meant to be fun.
Yeah. So, well, actually, to me, it seemed like an American version of Greek mythology.
Speaking of Hercules, what was that Kevin Sorbo series they had that was a science fiction one?
Andromeda.
Yeah, I watched a few episodes of that. That was very good, but then I canceled my Netflix subscription, so I haven't been able to watch the rest. I should see if the library has that.
So.
Oh, speaking of libraries, if you guys out there have a library card, see if your library has Star Trek Picard on DVD. I'm on the second season of it right now. That's really good. That's some of the best Star Trek I've ever watched. The only complaint I have is the characters say the F word and the S word, which isn't appropriate for a Star Trek episode.
You gotta have standards, you know? Did Captain Kirk ever swear? I mean, really?
Yeah, but I mean, it's okay to use the F word and S word when you're talking to your friends and stuff, but on a Star Trek show, you know, that's above that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, that kind of vulgarity just doesn't make it.
Yeah.
Of course,
it feels out of place when they say the F word or the S word. I think last episode I watched, Picard said the S word, and it just felt so out of place for something on a Star Trek episode.
Yeah, in science fiction, you gotta believe they also have different obscenities, like smoking rockets and things like that. Fucking rockets, Captain Corey.
All right, got anything else, sir?
Okay. So.
Anything else?
Not really.
All right, that's all we got for this time. We'll try and come up with a new topic for next week. Let's see if we can figure out one without using ChatGPT.
I think we hit the limit with that one.
Yeah. All right, take it easy, guys.